My name is Hamid Hakimi. I am the coordinator of Opportunity and Crisis Project at Chatham House, which is intended to bring policymakers and experts together on some of the key challenges and issues facing Afghanistan in 2014 and beyond. Today we are delighted to have Judge Najla Ayubi. You are the Deputy Country Representative for the Asia Foundation in Afghanistan. You've also been a member of the Independent Election Commission of Afghanistan, and you are on the several organization and movements, boards of directors across various groups in Afghanistan's women's rights movement. You are here in London for BOG's Gender Conference, and we're delighted to have you in Chatham House. Thank you for coming. One of the things that we have heard in some of the analyses that's come out of Afghanistan is that the women's rights movement or the organizations that work for women's rights are generally an urban phenomenon, that they're all based in big cities, particularly in Kabul. From your experience in Afghanistan working all these years, some people refer to you as the fighter. So as the fighter for women's rights, how have you experienced the level of support for women's rights across the country? Do you see a divide, or do you see that women are being supported across various parts of the country?
The women organizations and the women movement in Afghanistan was targeted, in a positive way, supported years and at least in the past decade, in the last decade. But it's still one of the issues that it's really matters for us also is the level of support at the local level or at the rural level, because we have some of the donors and some of the international foundations and organizations and even the UN, they started to put more of their focus on the big cities and the big provinces like Kabul, Mazar. Whenever you ask people, they definitely have something in these big cities, which I think these are the challenges that the rural women movement is facing. But still, some of the programs have been specifically for some of the provinces, like let's say in Uruzgan, some of the donor community, they really target Uruzgan as a let's say sister city or as a base for their development, or maybe Helmand for some other donors. But it depends which donor. Donors have their own development plan or intervention plan. That's why you could see some part of the country have been targeted hugely by so many different donors, but also but you comparing with some of the places like, let's say, Ghor, one of the remote provinces, was you could see that really was targeted by international development and donor community as well. But you could see that even at the local level, we have more women movement, even without the support of any international community or receiving any type of support from at the national level. They have survived, and they are moving, and they are even we get support from them. Support means that getting more information from them. They're sharing with us most of their concerns and issues. These are the issues that it's happening, but still we have to have our own plan for the future and see how we can put our plan in a way that we should mainly represent women from the grassroots level and put more of a program and project at the grassroots level rather than at the national level.
You talked about plans and future, and I'm sure you appreciate that much of that, at least from the perspective of audiences outside, depends on the upcoming elections. Have you observed any particular candidate or any trend among the candidates' campaign teams of trying to address women-specific issues and how have your engagement been with these candidate camps?
Actually, to be honest, people got, organizations, institutions, candidates, people, everybody got kind of matured uh, in this election, because we have already passed few elections, and before we didn't have this experience, but now most of the candidates, which we didn't have before, in 2009 election, we had few of the candidates that they were targeting women as a voter or as a supporter for the candidates. But this year, I think it's very. I'm too optimistic. I'm so optimistic that most of the media played a huge role of engaging women in their dialogues, in their roundtables and programs, but also candidates, which we were not seeing this in the past, were also try to focus on the women's issues, even if it's general, not the specific issues to promise for women, but still they thought that they cannot ignore a majority of the population, which are women, and that's why they asked them to. You could see within even if it's symbolic, but I could see it's a kind of positive sign for the social transformation and for political transformation in the country. Beside of that, most of the international community and international foundations and international INGOs try to target women as a candidate as well, which you could see that the women are part of the for their campaigns, for making their campaigns, making their effective messages, passing these messages effectively, and being kind of building their confidence being a candidate. The candidates are targeting women as a different group, as a target group. International community, of course, supporting the women candidates at the provincial level and also at the national, at the presidential level, to how they could, actually building their confidence and helping them to put their messages, to develop their messages, to put their messages in the effective way, and pass their messages in a very effective way, which this was not done in the past years. We have learned a lot from our previous processes. Something that I'm very optimistic that more women or female observers have been trained in the past few months, and it's continued to become observers during the election, and specifically for the sites or for the polling centers that the women are going in, casting their votes. These are the issues. Plus, one more thing I would like to just mention that it's very positive, of recruiting 13,000 women as a searchers, security searchers on the polling centers, which was done. We didn't have before, just how to protect the environment or protect the centers that women are going in. These are the issues that you could see that it's slowly, we are slowly getting somewhere, that we could practice it in a way, and I'm happy that even some of the conservative candidates, I would not name them, but some of these conservative candidates as well, they target women, and they loudly talked about women's rights.
How would you explain the process through which women's legal empowerment could be ensured? One of the things that we have come across is that, for instance, Afghanistan has some of the quote-unquote best regulations in paper and theory, at least, compared to the rest of the region. But why is it not translating into action on the ground for better legal rights for women?
I do agree that laws are there on the paper, but there is no political willingness of implementing these laws or practicing these laws, first of all. Second is the weak justice sector. And I mean, weak justice sector means that they are by financial means, by capacity, by human capacity, by operation capacity. Unfortunately, we are facing this, that the government is not providing enough capacity building programs for their staff to be part of the implementation or to enforce the law. The third thing is, which I do agree in most of the cases I have seen, like if, for instance, we have labor law. Within the labor law, for the implementation of the labor law, we need like about 42 or more than 42 implementation regulations. But you know, the labor law is there. We only have, out of 42, we have only 8 regulations, which you could see that if you don't have how to regulate these provisions of the laws, then you will be definitely, you know, failing of implementing the laws. But at the same time, I think the level of understanding and the level of interpretation of the laws within the justice sector is also another, which definitely affects the implementation of the law. These are the issues. But plus, one of the things that I would like to mention that most of the, specifically for the women who are lawyers, who are judges, who are attorneys or prosecutors, unfortunately there is a cultural barriers as well, that they cannot go to the provinces alone and work unless they don't have their family members or family to go with them. That's why these are the issues that women face, and they have to stuck with the family where they are living and have the job. In most of the cases, these women judges, women attorneys or prosecutors, they have the ability to work, but unfortunately there is no ground for them to practice. I think these are the issues that we are facing, but I'm sure that there are ways how to improve the situation. First of all, I think the government of Afghanistan, specifically in the justice sector, they have to put lots of pressure on their daily work to start drafting the regulations for the implementation, and plus building the capacity of their staff, of course with the help of the international community, to implement the laws and regulations.
And finally, have you done any work in relation to women's perceptions about peace and reconciliation in Afghanistan? Because obviously whatever we have discussed, including the positive achievements of the last decade in particular, will be at major risk unless there is real prospects for reconciliation. So what is a woman's perspective from your work experience and where you are coming from?
If you don't have the ownership of the peace process with Afghans, of course, it will never go forward. Because we have seen that Afghans were represented by different foreign countries, by different actors at the region, at the international level. That's why you could see, even by the government of Afghanistan, you could see this one-way street, that they are just started without consultation of the people and without the involvement of the people on the processes. But coming to the women participation, I think we need more women on the peace talks, the actual peace talks, because no one can represent the woman interest. You have to be a woman to represent your interest and your needs. I'm sure that the men cannot do this, but they can support us. They can be part of our efforts. But we have to have women on the peace talks, and plus we have to equip them with the skills how to negotiate and how to put their values forward and not compromise any of the constitutional or human rights values that we have, and we have put those red lines in front of us and among the women's groups, that these red lines should not be crossed and should not be compromised by any mean during the peace talks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.